to me, my job is not to pick the starting quarterback. The players will do that with the way that they play. My job is to make sure that we have really good players in the room, which we now, which we do in that room, and make sure that they have opportunities. And so, it'll be a fun ride. And when we know, we know. Not many teams have, 4 quality players like that. And it's going to be a lot of great competition. And to be quite honest with you, Nick, I think it'll be really good for our team, the competition.
Matt Rhule, coach of the Panthers, talking about the quarterback competition, headlined by Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. And look, when they made the trade for Baker Mayfield, the widespread assumption was Mayfield is going to be the starter. They wouldn't have made the move for him if they were happy with Sam Darnold based upon what they've seen to date, including most recently the offseason program. But you could also make the argument, look, they just got Mayfield because they got him for cheap. It was buy low, a distressed asset, as owner David Tepper would call it, and $5 million and a fifth-round pick with the possibility of some incentives. He's got to do a lot to unlock his full incentives, including win the Super Bowl. And so you throw it into the mix and you see what happens. I just wonder, Chris, is it going to be a fair and square competition, or is it going to be rigged in Mayfield's favor? And if Mayfield doesn't win the starting job, do the Panthers have a whole new host of issues in the locker room if Mayfield ends up believing that he and his skills weren't the ones that were obvious to the coaching staff should make him the guy who starts week 1 against the Browns?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a big-time asset. I think it was necessary to cover their asses, okay? They need another option at quarterback, right? They can't just say, we're going to go into it again with Sam Darnold and just cross our fingers and hope it went well or hope it goes well. I mean, that's hard to do after what we saw last year. And then, to your point, Mike, yeah, and I know we talked about this in the spring, obviously didn't do anything that made the organization feel like, oh, wow, he's really improved or he's got the offense. He's our guy. Come on, let's stay with it. There's obviously still that question mark there. So they go and get Baker Mayfield. I expect Baker Mayfield to be the starting quarterback in Cleveland. One, I just think he's better than Sam Darnold. And I think he's a better thrower, a better passer, whatever you want to say there. He definitely plays better within the pocket than Sam Darnold that way. He's played better in his NFL career. He's shown the ability to do some special things. And as we always talk about and what the things we like about Baker Mayfield, he's got a little bit of an edge and leadership factor that I do think is, more conducive to playing quarterback maybe than Sam Darnold. So that's where I give him the edge. I do. Your question, Mike, though, about if he doesn't win the job, and he has to be the backup, man, he's got to be careful. He's got a little reputation. So, if he wants to be that guy, he better watch out. And the other thing I'll say about him too, Mike, is just he is behind the 8 ball a little bit. And, hey, he's picking up the offense here late. He's not going to know all the intricacies of the offense quite the same way Sam Darnold is these first 3 weeks of training camp. So that's where I'm interested to see if he can make up some room there and that part of it.
Hey, look, he's going to be a free agent next year. He needs to have a big season. He needs to repair some of his reputational damage. And this reminds me, I said this at some point in the past few weeks, it reminds me of Carson Wentz in that when Wentz went from Philly to Indy, he was able to leave saying, it's not my fault, it's their fault. And we found out after a year in Indy that it was his fault. How is Baker processing everything that went down in Cleveland? And is he walking out the door thinking they're the idiots, they don't know what they had, and he walks into Carolina and maybe still carries some of those same traits that could be problematic if and when he encounters adversity? That's the reality, Chris. Adversity is going to happen in some form or fashion. Either he's not going to be the week 1 starter, or he's going to get injured, or he's going to throw 3 interceptions. There's going to be something at some point that tests the question of whether or not he has matured and has learned from the mistakes that contributed to the disintegration of his time in Cleveland.
Yeah. Hopefully he has learned from those. It wasn't perfect, but there still was a lot of good. We do know that he does seem to be a guy that's pretty obsessed with football and loves it, and he does have talent, and he made them relevant. He brought them back to the playoffs. So, again, I sit here just as in late July thinking, yes, he will be the starter. I don't know. You feel the same way? You think it's going to be him too when all's said and done?
I think it's going to be Baker.
Yeah.
I think you don't do that trade for Baker Mayfield without accepting the fact that he's your guy week 1, especially when it's against the Browns.
Yeah.
Now, but the reality, anytime we see a competition like this, the guy who wins it He's the guy who wins the opportunity to be the first one benched.
No doubt.
So
no doubt.
If it doesn't work, they'll go with Sam Darnold at some point this year. We mentioned that Matt Rhule does have questions about his job security. There was a report several weeks back that the Panthers are already maybe eyeballing Sean Payton for next year. Regardless of whether it's Payton or anyone else, I think Rhule's salary saved him after 2021, that bloated $9 million plus per year. And I think he's clearly on the hot seat last year, no matter what he says. David Tepper, again, no one's going to come out and say the coach is on the hot seat. This is all the stuff. Copy, paste, and repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat. Every year we see this. And what happens? Guys were on the hot seat all along. It just wasn't good business to come out and tell the world, Chris.
No, you're right. It's not good business, but it's obvious. We know where it's at. And, again, they're a team that has a lot of things to like about the roster. To your point with the Sean Payton, that I would think he's looking at it going, damn, there's a lot of guys there that I like that are young and talented. The defense is real. It's special. It really is across the board. We know they got some weapons on offense. So now it's just got to start showing on the field. They gave us a little glimpse early in the year last year, but things fell apart. So can they keep a little more consistency this year and be relevant, or at least in the playoff conversation? I think that could at least save their job as long as they're in that playoff conversation.
And remember, as it relates to Peyton, the Saints do control his rights, and if they're going to trade him anywhere, it's probably not going to be in the division, but we'll see how that all plays out. It's going to be a story that we cover all year long.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.